Good afternoon and welcome back to Zandvoort Circuit ahead of round 13 of the Wera Tools British F4 Championship certified by the FIA. Cars are being rolled out onto the pit lane ahead of heading onto the grid. A little bit delayed from the scheduled time due to some of the support race incidents earlier in the day, but we're getting set now for the 13th round of the championship here at a sunny the sunny coastal circuit that is Zandvoort, the one away event of the season for British F4. Third season on the trot, we've come to the home of the Dutch Grand Prix, just ahead of that event taking place next month. But 32 Tatas T421 Formula 4 cars at Bath powered machines, all on pretty slick tyres, are ready for a 20-minute contest that is coming up. My name is Joshua Barrett. John Munro will be helping me guide us through 20 minutes of racing with plenty of intrigue and championship intrigue, I think, to take place over the next 2 days, John.
Absolutely. We've got a fantastic championship battle at the top of the standings, as we alluded to in qualifying. You've got Dries Van Langendonck, the early season pace setter and former championship leader, was actually taken over by Wherrell after the last round at Silverstone. Lewis, on a run of 3 wins in 4 races, took him to the top of the standings. The two actually did come together as well in race 2 of Silverstone, just to add to the drama a little bit. But it's actually Dries Van Langendonck who's taken pole here today for both the first race and the third race, which will take place tomorrow. So the Belgian definitely looking to return to form. And his championship rival, Wherrell, starts this race from down in P16 and will start 14th in the third race. So not so good a qualifying for the Brit at the top of the standings. And as you were saying, yes, the weather is looking nice. I'm sure it would be a lovely day to be down at the beach if you're on the coast of the Netherlands, but I know that I'd rather be in a stand at the Zandvoort circuit instead. So welcome along to everyone, and hopefully we're in for a very exciting afternoon of racing.
That's right, and there are unique elements to the Zandvoort circuit as well, John, none least at the Hugenholt spot to turn 3.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen drivers in qualifying taking the standard racing line through Hugenholtz, which is not something you see very often on Grand Prix circuits, especially here in Europe. With a big banking, the cars tend to stick to the outside of the corner and use that banking to their advantage to fire them out towards turns 4, 5 and 6. In the race, however, it's going to be a little bit different, Josh, because in this race, of course, if you leave that gap open on the inside, if there's someone right behind you, there's every chance they're going to fire that car down the inside and block you on the exit with their Tatas. So drivers are going to have to be a little bit wary to maybe adjust that line in the race, depending on how the race is actually going. But if you have a little bit of clean air, you can, of course, use that outside line. What it does mean, the Hugenholtz corner, is some epic viewing for us watching this race, and we'll see cars right on the limit, getting close to the line as possible, especially on that opening lap as well, Josh. They're going to have to be particularly careful through that opening sector, because we do sometimes see opening lap incidents in this series, because all of these drivers are very hungry and they're very keen to get to the front as quickly as possible.
And it's super competitive, isn't it? With 20 cars in qualifying separated by just a second. Everyone is so equal, and that makes overtaking challenging, because when you're so tight to one another, John, basically you're braking at the same point. So to be able to have that overspeed to make a pass, it is very, very challenging. Therefore, the best time to make that move is on lap 1.
Certainly. I mean, these cars are quick. You know, they only have around about 170-ish brake horsepower, which doesn't sound crazy, but of course they're very lightweight, huge aerodynamic capability. So what happens is when you get into the braking zones, you can brake incredibly late for these corners. Smaller braking zones mean it's more difficult to actually overtake compared to something, of course, with a much longer braking zone where you can brake a little bit later and ease your way down the inside. So it does make overtaking a bit tricky. This track is not, I'd say, it's kind of somewhere in the middle, right? It's not the most difficult track to overtake in the world. It's also definitely not the easiest. So I think it's going to be a challenge for these drivers, which just places all of that importance on those opening laps, as we now see the drivers leaving the pits to head towards the grid to form up for a little bit of a grid walk. But I mean, as you say, how close is it? I mean, the top 20 separated by basically a second, which is just phenomenal to see. Just tiny gaps all the way through the field, and 32 cars out there today. One of the most competitive seasons ever, you have to say, of the British F4 Championship, with so many competitors so closely matched, and plenty of future stars, I'm sure, of the Formula Ladder, the GT racing, World Sports Cars, anything. You know, there are so many drivers in this series that will go on to do great things in motorsport, and some of them already are, of course. So, plenty to keep an eye on.
Yeah, the championship has been British F4 basically since 2015, and the champions list is very impressive, not least with that first champion, who was Lando Norris, the current world champion. And from then, the championship's gone on from strength to strength. Everyone wants to follow what Lando did in 2015 to then become Formula 1 world champion just 10 years later. But also on that list, you've got Kian Jewis, who was the British GT champion last year, Luke Browning, who I think is a Williams reserve driver, isn't he? Alex Dunn, who's a front runner in FIA F2 this year, Louis Sharp and Finn McLaughlin, I think, are both in FIA F3. Deegan Fairclough was the champion, he's in GB3, so everyone's moved on for British F4 and having great success higher up the single-seater ladder.
Yeah, certainly. This championship is the perfect breeding ground for young talent, not only to get noticed, but also to learn your craft. You know, it is difficult to overtake in these cars, but it's going to be difficult throughout your entire single-seater career. So you better learn quickly how to actually make moves, how to defend. Obviously, these are things you can work on and will have worked on throughout your karting careers, and of course through sim racing as well nowadays. And there are, an incredible list of karting championships within this field as well. Many of them also graduates from the likes of Ginetta Juniors, where they would have first experienced car racing, but some of them are in their first ever season of car racing. So there's a lot to learn. It's not just about winning; it's about learning. But it obviously helps a lot to put your name right at the top of the field and get noticed. We already have some Formula One team back drivers in this series as well. So clearly, many of these drivers are already on the radar, and many more will be by the end of the season.
Yeah, there's 7 drivers on this grid who have got affiliation with Formula One teams, whether they be directly part of the junior programs or whether they're racing for the team in F1 Academy. There's several of those with us this weekend at Zandvoort, and there's some great prizes as well from British F4. The 2026 champion will get a session at Mercedes AMG in the F1 simulator and a simulated development session at Atlassian Williams F1. So there's some great prizes there if you are the champion. Maybe a little bit awkward if you're a Formula One junior for another team.
Yeah, certainly. There's so much to think about here for the drivers as well. And also, of course, being part of these programs, you're going to be learning not just about driving, but you're going to be learning about media. You're going to be learning on how to deal with adversity, all sorts of things. So there's an awful lot of competition even from this level onwards. In fact, it's possibly even more difficult because so many drivers are looking to make their mark and prove their talent. So yeah, it's super competitive, and that's exactly what we want to see. Also, speaking of competitive, there have been so many drivers successful already. I believe I think it's 18 different drivers from this field have already had a podium this year, which is more than half of the field. So phenomenal to see. 8 different race winners as well in the 12 races so far. Only Van Langendonck with 3 wins. Or 2 wins, actually, I should say. Wherrell with 3 wins, and Joseph Smith as well with 2 wins are the drivers that have managed more than 1 victory so far. So that just proves how incredibly competitive this is.
Absolutely right. And at Silverstone, we had a grid walk for the first time for British F4 when it was the BRDC International Trophy feature race. So that was something new for the drivers to learn, and we're going to do that again here at Zandvoort. So the cars are making their way to the grid. And you've got, as well as mechanics and team members, you're going to, I think, have some fans as well, get the chance to have a close-up look at the cars and meet some of the drivers. We had an elongated grid walk at Silverstone, not quite, I think that length of time today, but 2 exciting points in the championship as a headline event. British F4 headline in Silverstone 6 weeks ago or so, and then headlining here at Zandvoort, both Grand Prix venues. And then after this weekend, the championship will resume with the TOCA package being part of the British Touring Car Support Package at Thruxton in a couple of weeks' time. Thruxton and Zandvoort, they're so different venues, back-to-back rounds just a couple of weeks away, John.
Yeah, certainly. Thruxton is very high speed, and slipstream will be a huge part of the racecraft there. It's always phenomenal for racing. And Zandvoort, a totally different challenge as well, but a much more, let's say, globally prestigious circuit, without trying to be unkind to Thruxton, which is much more popular on a national level. But very different circuits in terms of their style, for sure. And yeah, I mean, that's a big challenge. Obviously, this is the one away round for the championship. Soon, the championship will return to the TOCA package, and ITV viewers who are maybe missing some of these rounds in the middle won't know what's hit them in terms of the championship standings, because we've seen such a turnaround in form, haven't we? Dries Van Langendonck still remains competitive and actually obviously takes pole position for this race as well as race 3, so he could still be on top of the standings, but everyone around him has been switching a lot. Jeff Hall was very competitive early on. He's currently 3rd in the championship, but once again not quite at the at the sharpest end here. He is 5th on the grid for this opening race, so looking to kind of pick up the form again. But Theo Palmer has been super consistent, and he finds himself right up there in the championship in P4. And of course, Lewis Wherrell hadn't won a race, wasn't actually really being considered as a championship contender at that early stage following Brands Hatch and Donington. But then all of a sudden, Snetterton and Silverstone, he was the man to beat and finds himself on top of the standings. So it's going to be a bit of a culture shock for those viewers on ITV tuning back in Thruxton.
Yeah, although this weekend could change a lot, couldn't it? With Lewis Wherrell, it's going to be an uphill battle, I think, to score any significant points this weekend from his grid positions. His best chance will be gaining positions in race 2, I think, where you get bonus points, but that's only for the second race of the weekend, the reverse grid race, where you get bonus points. There is a huge amount of people making their way onto the grid here at Zandvoort as well, so a chance for some of the Dutch spectators to meet the future stars, and I think we're about to do that now as we're going to throw down to the grid here at Zandvoort.
Welcome out Zandvoort. What better place could there be for such an exciting weekend of motorsport ahead? Our overseas round for the Wera British Formula 4 Championship. The sun is shining. We cannot wait to get this first contest underway. It's the Grid Walk. Welcome to the grid. Thank you to John and Josh in the commentary booth for setting the scene for our first round. It's been 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Can you believe that? 6 weeks since we last raced at Silverstone. Of course, George Proudford-Nalder won that race. What can he do from a little bit further down the grid? Have a look around. Should we start with our pole sitter for this round, Dries Van Langendonck? Let's go and let's see if we can find Dries. So of course the papaya car, the orange car, is on pole position. He's had a terrible couple of rounds probably by his high standards, but needless to say, he's pleasantly surprised to pick up the Cadola watch. He's good to be back on pole. Another 2 bonus points, of course. He's closed the gap to Lewis Wherrell. 4 points coming into this round. Let's see what he can do. But I don't think Dries is actually around. I think he's escaped. Might have to speak to... Let's quickly speak to, sorry, we're live. Warren, can we have a quick chat with you at all? Dries isn't around, so unfortunately you've drawn the short straw. Tell us a little bit about your roles. Obviously you're here, McLaren hat on. Yeah. Dries, you must be quite happy with this, to be back on pole?
Yeah, very much so. You know, we've had a very strong start the season, obviously, and a strong winter series before that as well. So we came into the season with some high hopes, obviously, and the prep that we did last year and over the winter has been super strong. So yeah, I mean he's performing really well. You know, British F4 is extremely strong this year, so I don't think it's maybe a little bit unrealistic to win every race, for example. But and there's some strong competition around, so which we've seen in the last few races. So it's good to just get the season back on track with a double pole, and you know, I think look forward to a good weekend. So.
100%.
Yep.
100%. Thank you very much. We'll let you continue on. We'll see if we can hopefully catch up with him a bit. Thank you very much, Warren. So, of course, Dries is on pole. Our pole sitter, he will be delighted with that. He's actually just coming back now. We're going to quickly grab him. Dries, we're live, sir. We just spoken to Warren. You seem fairly relaxed, fairly happy. It must be good to be back on pole.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I needed this one, to say the least. Hasn't been an easy season. Like I said, we made a couple of mistakes on execution and things like that in the earlier rounds. So yeah, I think good opportunity to get some points. And yeah, hopefully I can get a good launch and then control the race from there.
What's this circuit like for those watching from home? Perhaps haven't been to Zandvoort. Just give us a bit of a flavour. What's this track like?
Yeah, probably one of the more difficult tracks on the calendar, especially with the banking and how you load the car in some of the corners is always a tricky thing to get right as a driver. So yeah, tricky track. With lots of things to learn, but nice track to drive.
And I guess the win's the target for today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we're in a good spot, see what everyone does, but I think we got the pace and I think in the best spot to win it.
Awesome. Good luck, Dries. Lovely to see you. Dries Van Langendonck there, of course, our pole sitter. As we said, 4 points now, the championship leader over Lewis Wherrell. It's going to be interesting. Can he wrestle that championship lead back from the Englishman? Let's go a little bit further down the grid, shall we? See who we can grab. Let's see if we can go and speak to Theo Palmer here at High Tech. Of course, Theo he's had a couple of podiums. He would probably desperately love to have a win under his belt. Sorry to interrupt, Jakes. I'm doing a quick Martin Brundle grid walk, but like a very sort of budget version. You've got me instead. Theo, second place on the grid. You must be quite happy with that heading into the first race here.
Yeah, I think P2 is a really good starting place. I've got a nice clear view down to turn 1, so hopefully we can get some good luck and fight for the lead.
Starting obviously this side, it's a little bit cambered. Is that going to make a little bit of a difference for you?
There is a crest in the middle of the road, but I learned my mistake last year not to brake on it, so I'll just remember that, but just focus on having a clean start.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Speaking of Theo Palmer for High Tech there. Starting second, he would probably desperately love his first victory in the British F4 Championship. Of course, he's had podiums. Let's see if we can quickly grab our last. Apologies, I'm in the middle of photos. Grab our last person. Just going to quickly grab Scott. We're live. We're live, sir. Starting third, this is good for you. This is a good position to be making something from and getting something from, I guess, this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a good quali and a good comeback from Silverstone for sure. So I'm happy with this. And now it's just the race is done, quali's done. So I mean, it's a big part of the weekend. So I'm happy with that, and we'll see what we can do in these races.
Race pace, you happy?
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to do it as well as possible.
Go on. What was your hopes in this race?
I mean, just to grab points, really. Just finish in a good position, not to take too many risks. So, yeah, that's what I'm aiming for.
Awesome. Good luck, Scott. Thank you very much. There we go. Scott Kin Lindblom, starting third for High Tech in the Red Bull backed car. Of course, everyone's getting prepped for the that run into turn 1. It's going to be mighty interesting, isn't it? Of course, this circuit known for its banking, very interesting. Up to 18 degrees of gradient change in the final turn, which is, I mean, it's great to see so many people here. It's fantastic. We've got time for one more. Yeah, let's see what we can do. Let's see who we can. Anybody interesting on the grid? Have we got a quick? Do you think we can grab quickly? Just very quick word, Ethan. Not a bad weekend so far for you. You've been consistently in the top 5. You must be happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. We had a good second fastest lap. Quali, I think I could have maximised it a bit more, but it still turned out not too bad. So I'm just hoping to do the best I can in this race.
Do you have a plan? What are you hoping for?
I think a lot of things can happen around here, so I'm not too sure. I think this track looks quite interesting in the first couple laps. So as long as I just put myself in the right positions and make good decisions, I think it should be good. Awesome. Good luck, Ethan. Thank you so much. We're going to throw you back to Josh and John in the commentary booth.
Thanks, Ben. Great to hear from our top 4 drivers on the grid for round 13 of the Wera Tools British F4 Championship certified by FIA. Dries Van Langendonck starting from pole position after setting the quickest second best lap in qualifying this morning. Theo Palmer, Scott Kin Lindblom and Ethan Carney we heard from there, and particularly Scott Kin Lindblom was saying how important qualifying is. And John, I just wonder if so much of the prep on Thursday and Friday actually goes into that qualifying session, and now they've got to turn their attention onto the races, which has got a different skill set.
You're absolutely right. I think you've got to consider that when you head into the weekend. It's very easy to just fall into, the race is what matters and qualifying is what it is. But the reality is, it's probably more important to perform at your best during qualifying than it is to perform at your best during the race. As long as you have an okay race, even if you drop a few spots, if you qualify up the front, you're going to pick up big points. Not the case if you have a great race, but you're starting towards the back. So definitely there's going to be a focus on qualifying. And of course, for the drivers towards the front, that first lap is equally important as well. We heard obviously there from Theo Palmer. He's got the inside line towards turn 1. The run down towards Tarzan Box. It's not the longest run, but it is a corner where you can make a move early doors, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Also, I thought it was interesting what Warren said about Dries Van Langendonck. Obviously, he's had a slightly difficult middle of the season, but let's not forget, he was never going to win every race because of how competitive this championship is. No driver, no matter how quick they are, is going to go out there and dominate a championship like this with the talent pool we've got. So he's just got to stay calm, and it looks like that's exactly what he's done so far this weekend at Zandvoort, and he's looking in a great spot to pick up some points again and kind of build that lead back up, shall we say.
Yeah, it was good to hear from Warren Hughes, wasn't it? Former sports car, touring car, single-seater race winner, massively experienced driver, Warren Hughes in his day. You can see him on his right. Nowadays, he looks after the McLaren junior drivers. He became a bit of a star on Netflix a couple of years ago with the F1 Academy show, but he puts a lot of effort into the junior drivers. He travels around with them, and Warren Hughes is a great mentor to have for Dries Van Langendonck, and it also shows you how serious McLaren are about this programme. And Dries Van Langendonck will be looking to continue that association with McLaren through the years. And I'm sure Formula One is absolutely his aim at this point in his career.
It certainly is, and great to have experienced, successful people around you, and that's exactly what you've got, as you say, with Warren Hughes. Just want to give a shout out as well to Ethan Carney, who we just heard from on the grid. This has got to be one of his best starting spots for an opening race of the season, up in P4 for Fortec. It's been an okay season so far for Ethan, but this is definitely throwing him right in amongst the sharp end. So I'm intrigued to see how he gets on, if he lets that lofty starting spot of fourth phase him, or if he can get his head down and use it as motivation to possibly even pick up a podium. We'll have to wait and see, but it's a great start to the weekend for him.
It was great to see so many people here on the grid at Zandvoort. They've now flowed their way back off of the circuit, so the start procedure will begin here for round 13 of the championship with these 32 youngsters. Almost all of them are teenagers on the grid, and one of the youngest drivers is that on pole position, Dries Van Langendonck, still 15. It was 10 and a half months ago when he turned up in the British Championship on his 15th birthday at Donington Park and put it on pole position. And ever since then, he's been the man to watch in the championship. He's had those 2 victories this year. He won the opener at Donington Park. He won the main race at Brands Hatch, the third race of the weekend. Had those struggles at Snetterton and Silverstone, but now he's looking to bounce back. And with 25 points on the cards in this opening race, he's already scored 2 points from qualifying, so the gap, which was 9 points, is now 7. He's got every opportunity to reclaim the championship lead in this very race.
He certainly does. And of course, for the next race, he'll be starting 12th, which allows him the chance to gain another 10 positions if he's got speed and pick up even more points. So it is the perfect setup for the weekend for Van Langendonck, but he has to execute. He can't just rely on a strong qualifying result. He can't just rely on previous success. He has to execute this race well. But we've seen him do it before. He seems like one of the most composed, I would say, calm drivers on the grid. Every time we hear from him, he sounds relaxed, he sounds confident, but he's also, got a mature head on there, and he doesn't sound like he's getting carried away either. He's also fairly self-critical too. So he does feel like yes, he's only 15, but he feels like he could be the complete package going forward, does Dries Van Langendonck. He's going to have to deal with Theo Palmer, though, in this opening lap, and that's going to be interesting. How much space does Van Langendonck leave Palmer on the inside? Remember, those two came to blows at Donington, fighting for the lead of the race, and Palmer went down the inside, ended up spinning off and retiring from that race. Could we see a repeat of this here at Zandvoort? I don't think we'll see an incident between the two, but it's worth noting it's not the first time they may go into turn one side by side.
Yeah, and that was a race Van Langendonck got penalised for that incident, didn't he? So both of the drivers had their race sort of ruined from that one incident. Allowed Joseph Smith to come through to win it. He's a bit further back on the grid today. It's Joseph Smith, a bit like Lewis Wherrell, in the mid-pack. But the 3 drivers behind Van Langendonck are yet to win a race this year, Palmer, Lindblom and Carney. So they'll be pretty keen on that, although Kin Lindblom was very calm about his race results, wasn't he? Just wanted to get some points, but when you're starting that high up the grid, surely there should be some big aims about what could come out of this 20-minute contest around the Zandvoort circuit, the third season that the British Championship has raced at this circuit, the home of the Dutch Grand Prix. And I think we've had the 3-minute board, so we are close to getting the green flag lap underway ahead of the 13th round of the championship, with DVL then on pole position, the Belgium driver who's already won an F4 base championship this year when he won the Formula Winter Series at the beginning of the season. He's a world and European karting champion and was a race winner in British F4 last year on those 3 events he did at the end of the season. Theo Palmer alongside him, the driver of UAE nationality. Started racing the championship last year, had a better result of 6th in 2025. He's gone better than that already this season. Had Theo Palmer, who's 4th in the championship. He's had a couple of podiums. And then on the 3rd position on the grid, Scott Kin Lindblom, the 15-year-old Swede, Red Bull Junior, who finished 7th in the UAE 4 championship over the winter and finished 3rd in the Saudi Arabian championship at the end of last year. So he will go off 3rd place. He's had 3 podiums over the course of this season. Then Ethan Carney will start 4th, the 17-year-old American who raced in the Ginetta Junior Championship here at Zandvoort last year. 9 drivers on this grid all have moved on from the Ginetta Junior Championship, which we are sharing a race weekend with here at Zandvoort, sort of a British away day for the two key junior championships in Britain. The only weekend that Ginetta Juniors and British F4 spend on the same event. A bit further back on the grid, we haven't mentioned yet that Ethan Jeff Hall will start 5th, but let's have a look at the full grid rundown for round 13 of the Wera Tools British F4 Championship, and it's Dries Van Langendonck on pole position for Road in Motorsport alongside Theo Palmer. Scott Kin Lindblom and Ethan Carney start on road 2. Then we get to Ethan Jeff Hall and Tommy Harfield, who start on row 3. On row 4 we have Cash Felber and Adam Al-Azari. And then on row 5, Jaber Al-Shabar and George Proudford-Nalder, the BRDC International Trophy winner. Row 6, Jarrett Clark and Roman Felber, just a couple of rows behind his brother. Alba Larsen starts 13th alongside Cameron Nelson. The newcomer, Lubo Roykov, starts alongside the championship leader, Lewis Wherrell, who starts 16th. Kit Belofsky starts alongside double race winner this year, Joseph Smith. Matej Kobakhidze starts 19th alongside Chiara Bättig, fresh off finishing on the podium at the British Grand Prix last weekend. On row 11, Leon Hedford starts alongside Alfie Slater, a race winner in Ginetta's here last year. Timo Jungling starts on row 12 alongside Ethan Lennon. Henry Mercier, who had an off in qualifying, starts 25th. He starts alongside Hani Sadiq. Emma Felbermayr, a winner at Silverstone last weekend, starts 27th alongside Ella Lloyd. Cole Hewitson is next with Jackson Wolney alongside. And on the 16th and final row, we find Daniela Sutton and Sun Anzi to make up 32 F4 cars that are well on their green flag lap now, John.
They certainly are. So everyone's expectations will be rising. Nerves, I think, honestly, nerves will be dissipating at this point, Joseph. It's actually when you're sitting in the car that you get most nervous. And then once you actually get going and you get moving, you follow your processes, you get ready for the race, and you should be good to go. Interesting as well, just looking at so many high-tech cars sitting in a good position here, but high-tech actually haven't won a race this season. So you've got Theo Palmer sitting there second on the grid, you've got Scott Kin Lindblom in third. Could we see the first high-tech win this season here today? There's a very good chance of it, but they're going to have to stop Dries Van Langendonck if they want to do that, and that's going to be no easy feat whatsoever. But we've got a couple of corners now to go, and you can see Scott Kin Lindblom getting sideways there as he gets a little bit more heat than he intended into those tyres. And these cars are pretty difficult to get off the line, aren't they, Josh? It looks like throughout the season some drivers have been struggling to get these things going, so it will be important as well to actually get a good launch before you head towards turn 1.
Yeah, that was Tom Dries' problems last season when he was new into F4. That first race that I mentioned, he got pole at Donington at the start, did not go well, but he's learnt a lot since then and he's improved on that, and he'll be hoping all goes well, particularly knowing that into Tarzan that's a position where he could come under threat, and certainly at Hugenholtz, I think if he can get through there okay, then he can start focusing forwards. But you've got a few opening bends here at Zandvoort where the pressure will be on. He's got to sit there for such a long time as well as 32 or 31 other drivers make their way on to the grid. But it is the Road in Motorsport driver then on pole position ahead of that high-tech car of Theo Palmer. It is high-tech that lead the team standings. I mean, very consistent throughout the year, but looking for that victory here at Zandvoort. And Scott Kin Lindblom in the Red Bull liveried machine starts alongside the Fortec car of Ethan Carney. Then Argenti, Ethan Jeff Hall, all the teams super successful here in British F4. They've all been on the podium over the opening 12 races, but with the last few cars just now coming into position, Dries Van Langendonck's been sitting there on pole for quite some time, but he's soon going to be focused forwards because the green flag is waved at the back. Round 13 of the Wera Tools British F4 Championship is about to get underway. The first of 3 in the Netherlands here at Zandvoort. The red lights will go out, and then 20 minutes of F4 racing gets underway, and I think it's a good start from Van Langendonck. There's a couple in the middle that haven't got away at all, but it's a great start from Van Langendonck. He's going to lead into Tarzan ahead of Theo Palmer. Then Scott Lindblom is third, a dive up the inside for 4th position, so that means Ethan Carney may well have lost 4th place there, but a great start from Van Langendonck. He's got a good gap as they make their way into Hugenholtz, where you can take varying different lines, and actually all the front guys taking that wide, quicker line, and they're not coming under threat because so few drivers, surprisingly, John, didn't go for that tighter line where you can gain positions.
Yeah, I think it was just the XL of Jaber Alsaba that took the narrower line there, but a pretty clean start, has to be said. Good move from Ethan Hall, moving up into P4 on that opening, Ethan Jeff Hall, I should say, moving up into P4 on that opening corner. And yeah, two of the cars actually didn't get away very quickly. Not quite sure yet who that was, but we'll wait until the timing screens update. But relatively clean start, it has to be said. A little bit of a lock up there from Kin Lindblom in P3, and it's line astern as we head now towards turn 10 for the first time.
Theo Palmer's going back at Van Langendonck though, isn't he, after a really good start from the McLaren driver development man out front. But Theo Palmer is going after him with Lindblom in third, then a good move into Tarzan that put Ethan Jeff Hall up into fourth position, but Ethan Carney trying to fight back into the S-bend. He can't make that stick though, and the field make their way towards the end of the opening lap with, again, Palmer really looking quite strong here to go after Van Langendonck, looking for his first win in the championship. And the championship's so competitive, so there's no gaps developing throughout the field, but it is going to be DVL in 51 then that leads at the end of the opening lap by only 0.4 of a second from Theo Palmer. There's some challenges going on behind, and that is Jaber Alshabal having a look around the outside of Cash Felber into Tarzan corner. Can he stick it around the outside? That would be challenging. He cannot, so no position gained. Adam Al-Zahari was one of our stallers, I can tell you, and George Proudford-Nalder, the winner from the most recent race, was the other, so they've dropped right to near the back, John.
Yeah, yellow flag at turn 1 as well, so potentially an incident down there, and that's the second bad start in 2 weeks for Proudford-Nalder. Didn't get off the line from pole position at Silverstone the first time around either, so clearly need to work on his starts a little bit, is Proudford-Nalder. But they continue now onto the second lap. Cash Felber, yeah, great defensive move through Tarzan on Alsaba. It looked like Alsaba was going to go around the outside, but Felber held firm. Very clean stuff from the two of them. Kept it tight, kept it close, and we are actually going safety car, Josh. So perhaps the incident at turn 1 resulting in a car stopped. So we'll have to keep an eye out.
It's the two at the rear of the field that haven't come through the sector, I don't think. So Daniela Sutton and Sun and Z, who are only separated by 62 thousandths of the line. I think they've had the incident at turn 1. Don't think Henry Mercier started, if my timing screen is to be believed.
Yeah,
it seems like Henry Mercier didn't make the start, which actually he was the one that had the incident in qualifying. We thought that would have been sorted for the race. It was not. There is Sun and Z, the 15-year-old Chinese racer, who was a runner-up in the Chinese karting championship last year, one of the two drivers seemingly involved in that incident, although we didn't see... Daniel Sutton's got back going, so Daniel Sutton will, if the car is undamaged, be able to chase to the back of the queue under the safety car, so just the one car to recover, so hopefully that won't take too many racing laps away.
Yeah, yet another safety car on the opening lap. We did say earlier there's a good chance of that happening, but it's actually, instead of happening at the front of the field, it's happened down towards the back with Sun Anju. We haven't seen what happened there, but he's ended up facing the wrong way in the gravel trap. And there you can see the Argenti sitting there. So a little bit of a breather now for the drivers. Take a little bit of a breath, work out what's happened at the start. But it was honestly a pretty clean start in general, I'd have to say. Everyone behaved themselves. It was good. It was pretty clean.
I think we could have a look at a replay of the start to see if we can work out perhaps what happened a bit further down the order, because we saw that very good start from the first few cars. And I think we'll come back to that in a second. But Dries Van Langendonck, Theo Palmer and Scott Lindblom all had a pretty even start, and there wasn't too many talking points there. It was those behind, particularly George Proudford-Nalder and Adam Al-Zahari. Quite weird, really, the two drivers who were back-to-back, I think, on the grid, in 8th and 10th positions.
Yeah, you don't see it very often, do you? With the two cars next to each other, both having a difficult start, and it was bizarre. But you can see neither gets away, and then there's a little bit of a battle to get going afterwards.
We can bring you about Henry Mercier's car. Chris Dittman Racing were hoping to get the car out for the start, but they are still working in the paddock to try and fix the car. So that car actually had a fair bit more damage, I think, from qualifying than we first anticipated.
Yeah, potentially. It would be a strange coincidence if it wasn't related to that incident, and they have had quite a lot of time to work on the car. There's been a few delays throughout the day as well, although the F4 qualifying was also affected by that, so started a little bit later. It didn't look too bad, did it, on the surface of things, but perhaps some damage that couldn't be sorted there for Mercier, and unfortunately he's out for this one. But of course, the next race being tomorrow, there's a good chance they can get that car turned around and back out. But not a great start in general then for Chris Dittman Racing, of course, with Daniela Sutton seemingly involved in the incident with Saint-Anjou there. She's now caught up to the back of the field though, and that should be all okay. The other Chris Dittman Racing car, Alba Larsen, is doing a great job up in P13, and of course Tommy Harfield in the purple Chris Dittman car. It looks a little bit different to the others, but he is also part of the same stable. He's up in 6th, is the man who finished in the top 3 last season in the championship. So it's been good for the other 2 cars. And of course, Alba Larsen did a stunning job in qualifying as well, Josh. She put the car right up there in P9 in qualifying, which meant, of course, she will start 9th for the 3rd race tomorrow and start 13th for this race. So 2 decent starting spots, but already a nice start to the race for those guys.
Yeah, and 4th for the reverse grid race. So there's an opportunity for Alba Larsen tomorrow for sure. She's just behind Lewis Wherrell in this race. So Lewis Wherrell, championship leader, has got up to 12. He needs to get into the top 10 to score points. It's the same point system as the Formula 1 World Championship for the 2 grids that are set on fastest lap times from qualifying. So rundown of the order: Dries Van Langendonck is the race leader, Theo Palmer is 2nd, and Scott Kin Lindblom 3rd. Ethan Jeff Hall is 4th, Ethan Carney 5th, and Tommy Harfield is 6th. Cash Felber is 7th, Jaber Al-Shabar is 8th, Jarrett Clark is 9th, and Roman Felber is 10th. They're the drivers in current point positions. 11th is the newcomer Lubo Rykov, 12th is Lewis Wherrell, 13th is Alba Larsen, 14th is Joseph Smith, and Cameron Nelson completes the top 15 at this stage of the race. There's just under 13 minutes on the clock at the moment. Safety car lights, have they just gone out?
Just quickly as well before we resume, Josh. Oh, sorry to interrupt there. No, I was just going to say, I've had an update from Ben to say Henry Mercier's car is actually still frantically being worked upon. So CDR are maybe hoping to get that car out for this race, but only 13 minutes to go. It's going to be tight.
Yeah, and it's not going to get anything out of it other than no, the car's fixed, I guess. So Dries Van Langendonck will now control the pace ahead of the restart, and it's a long run to turn 1 here, so he desperately wants to get away and not give off a toe. He's accelerating now. He's got a few car lengths over Theo Palmer, and that might just be enough not to come under pressure into Tarzan, but I think we're going to see some battles in the pack. So it's a good restart from Van Langendonck, but a pretty decent one from Theo Palmer too. There's a jostling for 5th between Ethan Carney and Tommy Harfield, who tries to go around the outside into Tarzan. Can't quite make that into the corner, but he tries to cut back out of the bend. And we'll see if we get any challenges this time into Hugenholt. We didn't really see it on the original start. Are we going to see any tight lines taken this time? There's one a bit further back, and that was Jarrett Clark having a look to the inside. But we're not seeing the kind of action of that corner, John, as I expected before the weekend.
No, it seems like Al-Sabah is the only one, because he's done it twice now where he's gone slightly defensive, but it's actually cost him there in that battle, fighting with Jarrett Clark for P8. We also saw, I think, Lewis Wherrell and Roykov right in the mix there for P10 with Roman Felber heading into turn 1. So there are some bigger battles a little bit further down the field, but at the front, of course, having that space to accelerate away from the start, Van Langendonck's managed to get clear. Palmer, though, sticking right with him, only a couple of tenths between those two. I think I saw another little inside lock-up there from Kin Lindblom, as in the background, a couple more cars getting very close. I believe that might still be Al-Sabah and Clark fighting over what is P8. So, yes, it is. There's the XL car. You can see they're ducking out from behind the blue Virtuosi, and they're now going to head into the chicane. So, potentially an overtaking opportunity here, but looks like they've all sorted out before getting there.
Yeah, I think the move was made by Jarrett Clark at turn 8, the Masters corner, so I think that change has happened with Jarrett Clark making up a position. He started 11th, so he's been making some progress, obviously helped by those 2 stallers at the start. So Van Langendonck up across the line, Theo Palmer in the chase. He's not really losing any touch to him, he's just under half a second behind. And Lindblom is 3rd, 4th is Jeff Hall as they turn their way into turn 1. Tarzan for what is the 6th time in this race. Half distance now, 10 minutes have been completed, 10 minutes to go into that Hugenholtz bend. The top 2 getting away now. Van Langendonck and Palmer are gapping Scott Kin Lindblom in 3rd place, John.
Yeah, Kin Lindblom seems to be struggling a little bit under braking potentially. You've just seen a couple of those lockups, as I mentioned. I wonder if that's maybe affecting things. Just dropped back about 6 or 7 tenths, so you'll still be getting a little bit of that dirty air effect, but less of the slipstream advantage as well. So it's not the best spot to be sitting for Kin Lindblom. Theo Palmer definitely looks like he's the man who's got the pace to bring this battle to Van Langendonck. So we'll have to see if he can stick with him for the whole race. Of course, only 10 minutes to go now with that safety car. And, you know, if we see another safety car, suddenly you're only talking about a couple of green flag laps. So let's hope that these drivers can keep things on the road and keep things going. And it looks like potentially we have a two-car battle developing for that lead. Then you've got the pack, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, all close together. Lindblom, Jeff Hall, Carney, Harfield and Felber. Meanwhile, Alsabaz dropped a little bit further into the clutches as well of Roman Felber. So Alsabaz has been looking in his mirrors more in this race than he has been looking out front, which is always difficult, but doing a great job to keep it on the road nonetheless.
I think he may have lost a couple more positions on this lap. We'll get confirmed at the end of the lap. It looked like Roman Felber and Lubo Rukov have made their way past him, which will be good news for Rukov on his debut. The rookie driver in the top 3 of the rookies, so he's going to get a trophy out of this, but he might well be into points-paying positions as well. Leaders across the line. Fastest lap for Theo Palmer, 1:39.285. Big ducking and diving for 5th position as Tommy Harfield goes around the outside of Ethan Carney into Tarzan. Tries to go right round the outside, can't get there, but a really big effort this is from Tommy Harfield, a multiple race winner last year. Tries to go around the outside. Is that going to give him the inside line into the next corner, I wonder? Not quite, so it's still Ethan Carney in 5th, Tommy Harfield in 6th.
Harfield making as much noises as possible in Ethan Carney's rearview mirror there. Looked like he was almost warming his tyres. And he's at it again, look. He goes around the outside. Is he going to try and make that move? No, he's going to back off. Carney goes defensive on the inside as they head through Shivlak, now towards Masters. And it looks like they're going to have to settle. But Harfield is not letting Carney out of the woods with this one. He's going to keep the pressure on. We head through now. Now he looks to the inside. Is he going to make the move down towards Masters? He does go down the inside. Lovely move from Harfield, who just would not let that one go. Carney's going to try and defend on the outside, and Cash Felber, the Fortec teammate, getting involved in this as well. So we're going to have 3 cars battling for this 5th position, and it looks like, is that Carney managed to make it stick? Harfield forced out wide. They're going to continue this battle all the way down to the chicane.
Yeah, and this could give Cash Felber the chance, as you suggested, to get amongst them. In the end, they're going to be in the same order as they started all of this, aren't they? With in 5th place Ethan Carney, 6th Tommy Harfield, 7th Cash Felber. So all that duking of positions for several corners. In the end, no positions have changed, but there might be more opportunities. Jarrett Clark is buying himself into this battle as well, as the 7th lap of the race is about to be completed. Another fastest lap from Theo Palmer, so he's inching closer and closer to the back of Dries Van Langendonck. But what about for the lower positions inside the top 10? This time Tommy Harfield, if anything, actually is under pressure from Cash Felber, the American who had his 16th birthday in the week. Has got Jarrett Clark immediately behind him, but he is challenging Tommy Harfield as they start this next lap of the race. Again, it must be so much of a quicker line, John, around the high banking rather than going down tight, because no one is going for that move that we've seen in the past here at Zandvoort.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. Looks like that's the rubbered in part of the track, and clearly there's just not as, or there is a bigger deficit between the 2 lines, and everyone's sticking to that outside line. So these drivers will be feeling the grip and they'll be seeing what they see, but maybe we need someone to experiment with it a little bit. I'm just not convinced it's going to be good enough. I'm sure we would have seen plenty of that throughout the practice sessions. Just on that previous lap, it looks like Cameron Nelson has got by Kit Belofsky for P15, so that's a JHR development car getting past the Fortec, and everyone else though seems to be staying pretty line astern at the moment, it has to be said. Very, very close together. And as you mentioned, Theo Palmer flying on that last lap, 39.252 setting the pace. We're still quite a long way off the lap record here at Zandvoort, so track conditions maybe not quite as optimal as they have been in previous years, and we're quite a long way off qualifying pace as well at this stage, 7 laps in. But Palmer 4/10 to Langendonck. All it's going to take is one mistake for the Belgian, and Palmer could be through.
Yeah, Palmer's always quicker through Sector 1, but Van Langendonck's quicker through Sector 2, interestingly, but Palmer's not close enough to really put a challenge in, seemingly, but he is on for his best result of the season, so 2nd place would be good, and a fastest lap from Van Langendonck this time to put his gap out to an extra 10th, up to half a second. There's some battling going on in the mid-pack. That's Lewis Wherrell going for 11th. I think he might well make the move on Lubo Roykov. That was just happening in the background. So Lewis Wherrell is inching his way up towards a points-paying position. If he managed to make that 11th position stick, and then he's 1.8 seconds behind Jaber Al-Shabar. So it's a bit of a gap to catch, but Lewis Wherrell might well score a point. It could be an important point at the end of the season, so that's his aim. As there's further battles going on, and this is Lewis Wherrell, isn't it? Trying to make a that position stick, and I'm not sure it has actually, and instead he's coming back under pressure from Lubo Royakov. So instead of gaining that position, there's an instant behind him now. So instead of gaining that position, Lewis Wherrell was very much under threat, so he's not going to be getting up into 10th position. And
I think that's Alba Larsen that got forced off. I think it was Larsen out onto the gravel with a touch. Actually did very, very well to hold onto the car and not end up in the barriers there and keep it going. So it was a great save, but unfortunately it may well ruin the Danes' race here today.
Yeah, I could get the second number. I couldn't quite get the first one. So yeah, Alba Larsen, that would make sense. Thanks, John. So she was going well, involved in that battle in 13th position, but she went tracking across the gravel. In what has been quite a disappointing season, I think it's fair to say, for Alba Larsen. After a strong year last year in the F1 Academy, I think she'll be buoyed by the pace this weekend at Zandvoort. And okay, small error there, but she's got more opportunities over the next 2 days. The driver who races for Ferrari in the F1 Academy. She's 17 from Denmark. She raced in the British F4 Championship full-time last year. So lap number 9 being completed. Fastest lap this time for Tommy Harfield as he goes back after Ethan Carney. So, and there he is, just at the full shot. Big lock-up as he tries to make the move. Just out of shot, and then behind him we had Cash Felber and Jarrett Clark close to one another, but Roman Felber looked under pressure from Jeber Alshabar. So some real challenges coming out of the Ari Liondyke box up towards Tarzan. That appears to me, John, to be the best place to try and make your move.
It certainly does. We're hearing and seeing plenty of lockups, and somehow the cars are making it out the other end unscathed every time, so it's encouraging some great racing down there into the first corner. And the drivers do continue to put moves. So we're seeing that overtaking is certainly possible. You just need to be able to try and get a run. And what we've also seen here as well is as soon as you start battling the car in front of you, within a few corners, if you try and run side by side or try and set someone up, you're instantly being dragged back into the battle behind. It's very easy for a car that's a second back to close that gap as soon as the two in front start fighting, and all of a sudden you've got a 3-car battle, which is great to watch. A little bit stressful for the front 2 cars, so it's great to see that racing being encouraged, and especially in that mid-pack, the likes of Roykov, Wherrell, and previously Alba were having a fantastic battle there on the outskirts of the top 10, looking to try and nab that precious point. As you mentioned, Lewis Wherrell looking for every single point in the championship battle. It's not been a good weekend so far for the Brit, and right now it doesn't look like a point is guaranteed. He's having to scrap for every single position he can try and get.
Watching a battle here for 15th position, which is headed by Kit Belofsky, under increasing pressure from Chiara Bättig, whose week here at Zandvoort hasn't quite gone to plan after the highs of Silverstone last weekend, where she was very much in the news for being on the podium at Silverstone, and now she's trying to go around the outside of Kit Belofsky into Tarzan corner. So looking to make further progress is the young Red Bull junior driver Chiara Bättig, but no points I don't think going to be on offer here. The driver who was on the podium as well in British F4 at Silverstone 6 weeks ago. But the lead battle continues here on the penultimate lap of the race now between Dries Van Langendonck and Theo Palmer. Despite being in the aero wash all the way through this race, Theo Palmer has not allowed Dries Van Langendonck to go away. So this has been a great drive by Theo Palmer.
Yeah, it certainly has. And he hasn't allowed him to go away, but he hasn't yet been able to really push the thumb down on this battle. You know, it's been around about the half-second mark, but we haven't seen Palmer try and put a move yet on Van Langendonck. And I think that's mainly down to Van Langendonck's consistency. He's just avoiding mistakes. Even if he drives a couple of tenths away from his ultimate pace, the Belgian just needs to remain clean, just miss, or hit his apexes, I should say, and he should be able to get this one done. He just needs to avoid that bad exit from a corner to allow Palmer the run. And so far, so good. Only one lap to go for these two now. But I think Palmer honestly will take a P2. He's desperate to win a race this season, but he is slowly creeping up the championship standings, and this is going to keep him right there in the mix.
Absolutely right. Be his best result in the championship should he successfully continue in that position over the final lap of this circuit Zandvoort. So up across the line they go to start the 12th and final lap of round 13 of the championship. Actually, we only just about squeezed another lap in there, didn't we? About 15 seconds on the clock. The gap is 0.6 of a second between Dries Van Langendonck and Theo Palmer. Out of turn 1 they go through the left-right at turn 2, and then up towards the famous Hugenholz spot, turn 3, where they take that really high, wide line around the banking. And then they start to climb the hill absolutely flat out in these Tassus Abarth-powered F4 machinery. Still Lindblom looking for another podium. It'd be podium number 4 for the Red Bull Junior. He's holding firm ahead of Ethan Jeff Hall, who will be scoring good points as well. But no one appears to be scoring as many points as Dries Van Langendonck. He's not got the fastest lap, so it's not going to be an absolutely perfect score. Tommy Harfield looks set for that, but pole position came Van Langendonck's way. Don't want to call this too early, though, because Theo Palmer is right there as they turn their way out of 10 and up towards 11 and 12, the S-bend, which is probably the final overtaking opportunity. Not sure Theo Palmer's going to be quite close enough to make this work. He's not, so again, he's relying on a mistake, really, out of here from Dries Van Langendonck, which surely isn't going to come. He's done 11 lap perfectly. Why wouldn't lap 12 be the same? Then into the Arie Luijendijk box, they are about to come, and looking for his third win of the season. One corner to go for Dries Van Langendonck in the Wera Tools British F4 Championship, certified by FIA. It's going to be a third win of the season for Dries Van Langendonck. It's going to be the championship lead once more for the McLaren Junior, and it's a race win. Theo Palmer takes his best result of the season. It's another podium for Scott Kin Lindblom, although pressurised all the way by Ethan Jeff Hall. Fifth place goes the way of Ethan Carney. He was under pressure in the middle of the race from Tommy Harfield. There's some big battles coming up across the line a little bit further back. That's for 11th position. And Royakov hangs on ahead of Lewis Wherrell and Cameron Nelson. So no points for the championship lead, Lewis Wherrell. But at this pack, there's, six of them separated by absolutely nothing. That's fantastic, isn't it? That was for 23rd position, headed by Hani Sadiq. We had George Proudford-Nalder, Ella Lloyd, Alfie Slater, Emma Felbermayr and Cole Hewitson, separated by just 0.3 of a second. So some awesome battles down the order. But the form book has sort of returned to where we started the year out, John, with a pole position and a race win for DVL.
Textbook stuff from Van Langendonck. Didn't put a foot wrong, as you said. Also got his restart right as well. Of course, we had a safety car earlier on, and we've seen restarts are tricky things to get right in British F4 this season. There's been a lot of debate on how early you go and whether you try and break the toe or whether you try and catch the rival out early. All of these questions are asked, but Van Langendonck's had it all under control from the start. Got off the line well originally too, so not put a foot wrong so far. He's got 2 pole positions for the 2 races that he can have pole positions for. Can't say much more than that for Dries Van Langendonck. What a Saturday it's been. Also just want to give a shout out to Jarrett Clark getting past Felber there with a lap to go for P7, so a good race for the 55. And what a battle it was as well for that 11th spot between Roykov and Wherrell. They couldn't be separated for the whole race, but Roykov, fantastic debut in the championship for the 15-year-old Bulgarian. P11, ahead of our championship leader. He will certainly take that. And Cameron Nelson getting right into the mix as well.
Yeah, we thought that Wherrell had got past him many laps before the end, and he just couldn't do it. He challenged so many times with Lewis Wherrell, but he just could not make it ahead of him, and that meant no chance of any point. So he'll have to try again tomorrow, Lewis Wherrell, because now he's going to be trailing Dries Van Langendonck, and knowing that Van Langendonck's got a better chance of more points tomorrow, and heading back to the Toka meeting starting with Fruxton in 2 weeks' time. He doesn't want to be too many points behind someone that is so hard to beat in this championship. So the top 3 head into the winner's spot: Dries Van Langendonck, Theo Palmer and Scott Kin Lindblom. And the top 3 in rookies will probably be stopped there as well, ready for the podium ceremony. Van Langendonck, the winner in the rookies. Second was Jaber Altabar, and a podium on debut for Lubo Roykov. This is not his first ever race. He had raced in the Italian F4 Championship this season, but a great debut in the British Championship for the Bulgarian driver. Yeah,
plenty of good performances throughout the field. Overtaking proving difficult but not impossible from this field today. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see Wherrell so much in the thick of it. That's what happens. If you don't qualify out the front, you're in that mid-pack, you find yourself in these 2 or 3-way scraps throughout the race. And he did well to obviously get through that okay, and was just ahead of that incident we saw between, I think it was Larsen and Roykov heading through Skivalak a few laps before. But he survived P12. Unfortunately, it counts for nothing. It's 0 points for Lewis Wherrell. He's going to have to try and make up more spots in that second race, but his back's against the wall now for the whole weekend. And he's going to struggle, and it will not help his morale, I think, seeing Van Langendonck out there in front, starting on pole position for race 3, already picked up a win. It's looking very, very good for the Belgian. Yeah, when you're having a bad day, the last thing you want is your championship rival to be winning, isn't it? It's everything what is challenging, I guess, when you're battling for a championship. It's challenging, really, just to score points in this championship. You have to be in the top 3rd of the grid, the top 10, to even come away with points in races 1 and 3.
But that's what you need to do. If you're going to show yourself to be a star of the future, you need to be as consistently as possible, being at the front of the order. As Warren Hughes said earlier, you can't expect to be winning all the time because the championship is so competitive. But you need to consistently be scoring points, podiums, and race victories if you can. And that's what Dries Van Langendonck does so often. I think we're going to be able to hear from our top 3 drivers now. So we're going to head down into the pit lane.
Well, there we have it. What an opening encounter we've had here at Zandvoort. It's a lights the flag for this man here, Dries Van Langendonck. Let's see if we can go and have a quick word with our race winner. Sorry, Dries. I spoke to you just a matter of minutes ago. Lights the flag. You must be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. Great race. Very hot conditions as well. Theo was really quick the whole race, so it wasn't the easiest ones, but yeah, managed it quite well. I think the pace was just pretty consistent, pretty decent. So yeah, happy with it and happy going in tomorrow.
It's quite an abrasive surface here, and with the heat, the tyres okay?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult to manage. It sort of got to a point where I was still consistent, but yeah, it was definitely on the limit, especially with the rears going off, because like you said, very abrasive, especially in sector 2. So yeah, difficult to manage, but yeah, fun race.
Obviously, second race coming up tomorrow. You'll have a good night's sleep starting 12. Do you think you can do something from there?
I hope to put on some show, but yeah, I mean, I'll try my best. Obviously, try and stay out of trouble as well, but yeah, I could get some good points from that as well.
I suppose this is kind of like a home roundish. I guess it's the closest one for you. Feel quite good in that respect?
Yeah, also a lot of friends and family turning up, so yeah, very special indeed. Good way to come back as well, especially at this race. So yeah, very happy with it and happy going into the rest of the weekend.
Well, Dries, championship lead now, of course. So there we go, championship lead now. Let's go and see if we can grab Theo Palmer. We'll come down here a second. Congratulations, Theo, converting the second on the grid. Seconds. Did you have anything for Dries, or was he just a little bit too quick today?
I think Dries is a bit too quick today. He drove a mega race, but he just had the track position. I couldn't really get close, but still P2 is really good.
Okay, another podium. It's good points for the championship. It's a long game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. P2 is good points, but my focus is on the future, so not just one race, but I'll take it, and I'm looking forward to the next few races.
What are your hopes for the rest of the weekend? Where are you starting tomorrow?
I think P4 for race 3. Not sure about race 2, but my plan is just to get good points and damage limitation, really.
Congratulations, that podium once again. That elusive win will come, Theo. It will come.
Yeah, I trust it. It will come.
Good man. High-tech's Theo Palmer there. Just going to see if we can grab. Oh, we'll grab a rookie podium. Lubo, we spoke literally yesterday. You said you were after some podiums, some silverware. Yeah. First effort, not bad.
Yeah, it was quite good. To be honest, I knew that we could do much better because in qualifying we didn't get the setup right and we were quite in the back, but now I managed to gain some positions and I hope for tomorrow we can do the same.
Any sort of position you got in mind for tomorrow? Like, are you feeling good with the car? Is it to your liking?
To be honest, I was struggling a lot again, but my start was quite good and I gained some positions and in the end I needed to defend. To be honest, I don't think positions, I just think to improve, and if we're fast, we're definitely going to get podiums again. Congratulations,
hopefully we'll see more of the same come tomorrow. Let's see, here we go. We'll grab our third place finisher, Kin Lindblom, just having a quick photo. Don't go too fast, Scott. Don't go too fast, Scott. We spoke to you just a matter of minutes ago. Podium, I can never tell with you sometimes if you're happy or not disappointed with that. Obviously the front two sailed away a little bit, but third, please?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think our start was quite good, and then our first initial laps before the safety car was quite good. Yeah, no, the pace was there at the beginning, but then obviously I dropped back slightly, but yeah, no, I think it was still good, and to get away with a podium and 15 points, I think it's a good job.
And of course, obviously, you've got race 2 coming up, strong position.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what we can do in race 2. Obviously, starting 11th, I think.
Thanks, Ben. Great to hear from our successful drivers here in the Wera Tools British F4 Championship, certified by FIA, round 13 of the championship, the first of 3 races at Zandvoort. We've got 2 more to come tomorrow. Let's see if we can have a look at the results, though, of this 13th round of the season. The winner was Dries Van Langendonck by just half a second. Theo Palmer chased him all the way. Scott Kin Lindblom was 3rd and Ethan Jeff Hall 4th. 5th went the way of Ethan Carney with Tommy Harfield in 6th. Jarrett Clark, Cash and Roman Felber were 8th and 9th, the 2 brothers, and Jaber Al-Shabar completed the points. Lube Roykov was on the rookie podium just ahead of Lewis Wherrell and Cameron Nelson 13th. Joseph Smith was 14th, ahead of Kit Belofsky and Chiara Bättig. Timo Junglin, Ethan Lennon, Matej Kobakhidze, Leon Headford completed the top 20. Hani Sadiq, George Proudford-Nalder, Ella Lloyd, Alfie Slater, Emma Felbermayr, Cole Hewitson, Adam Al-Zahari, Jackson Walney, Alba Larsen and Daniela Sutton completed the 30 finishers. We had 1 non-finisher, 1 car in the gravel. But an interesting opener here at Zandvoort. And looking forward to 2 races tomorrow. Early start tomorrow for the British F4 Championship on air at 9:35 local time, and later in the day for the feature race, a 25-minute race at 12:30. Looking forward to those races tomorrow, John.
Certainly am. Yeah, interesting hearing from our race winner there, Van Langendonck. He says it's going to hopefully be entertaining tomorrow. See what you can do from P12. It is going to be difficult to make progress, but reverse grid races are always exciting, and it definitely does throw the cat amongst the pigeons. We should see Matej Kobakhidze on pole position from Ethan Lennon, Tommy Harfield, and Alba Larsen with a 2nd attempt at a good result, starting from P4 tomorrow. She had great pace as well. Her best lap time here today was pretty strong. So be interesting to see how tomorrow's goes. The quicker drivers coming from further back. Theo Palmer didn't know where he was starting tomorrow. He's starting 9th for race 2. So there you go, Theo. Pretty decent starting position for you there. And hopefully some points on offer too. But it's going to be exciting. It's been a great first race. And yeah, looking forward to tomorrow.
So join us tomorrow on the British F4 YouTube channel for all those 2 races here at Zandvoort. Rounds 14 and 15 to come tomorrow. But here at Zandvoort, new championship leader, Dries Van Langendonck, with his 3rd win of the season.